you will know the power of the dark side.
Oh, my bad. Alright, so I might have gotten a little bit too into this right there. But anyway, it is JMG 2930 here bringing you guys my top 5 takeaways from the Star Wars Battlefront beta. Now, I could really kind of just sum it up real simply and say this is the Star Wars game that you are looking for, but I'm going to break it down. And without further ado, we are going to dive into number 1. This game is Star Battlefield. It is the Battlefield franchise meeting Star Wars and meshing ever so perfectly. For those of you that are fans of Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4, you'll feel right at home when you pick up the controls and feel how fluid it moves and how similar it is to the controls of those classic first-person shooter games. Now, I don't want you to think that they took Battlefield and skinned it into the Star Wars universe, because that couldn't be any more inaccurate. With the jetpacks, the different Star Wars blasters, as well as obviously the incorporation of the heroes and the lightsabers, I can't really explain it. It has that Battlefield feel, but it's totally something fresh and new. Now, something that's not new is the return of the massive multiplayer maps and game modes that have been a staple of the Battlefield franchise since the dawn of time. And I'll tell you what, when you're on Hoth and it's the Empire versus the Rebels, these massive armies colliding, it just feels like it with how large these servers are. It absolutely works perfectly. These 20-on-20 skirmishes that can absolutely become a clusterfuck at the drop of a hat can be easily stabilized when you get together with your battle buddy and focus on teamwork. So just like Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4, and Battlefield Hardline, teamwork is what wins games. If you're a solo guy, this is not a game for you. You need to work together on the objective or you will not win jack shit. So with that being said, on to objective number 2, and that is simply the sights and the sounds of this game. They are phenomenal. The Frostbite 3 game engine is absolutely maximized in this title. The environments, the explosions, all the movement, everything is just so seamless, and it makes you feel like you're actually there on these planets. A personal favorite of mine was actually the thermal imploder, and man, the way that thing exploded and just completely shakes your screen, I just loved it. You felt like you were there, and you felt like that shit was setting off 5 feet to the right of you. Now, my only complaint was that at times, the voices of Luke and Darth Vader were very blatantly obvious that they weren't the real voice actors from the original trilogy. Now, it's not really a huge issue, but me being a Star Wars nut, I'm able to pick those things out. And honestly, looking at the game and how true to the story and true to the movies they were visually, it was one of the things that I said, they could have done a little bit better on. But beggars can't be choosers. So, moving on to takeaway number 3. I feel that with this beta, EA and DICE have redeemed themselves from that sloppy launch of Battlefield 4. The servers and the matchmaking actually appeared to be very stable during the entire beta, so fingers crossed that carries over to the main launch of the game. There were several small glitches and tweaks that needed to be made, but nothing that would classify to the level of complete broken game that Battlefield 4 launched at when it came out a few years ago. For example, if you were driving the AT-AT or the AT-STs and you had your crosshairs pinned on someone, it would either shoot a little high or a little too low. It was never right in the crosshairs, which kind of got a little frustrating, but again, a minor patch fixes that right up. And this leads me into takeaway number 4, and the fact that you finally get to pilot your favorite Star Wars vehicles, and just about every single one of them at that. From air to land and everything in between, you got control of it at one point or another if you find the power-up. Rather than the traditional Battlefield spawn at a spawn point and jump into the vehicle of your choice, in Battlefront what you have to do is find these power-ups that lay all over the course of the map that give you access into the TIE fighters, the AT-AT walkers, the AT-ST, and everything on each side of the battle. Now, what I thought was really awesome is the fact that there is now a time limit on just about every vehicle that you use. So gone are the days of that shithead sitting in the back of the Battlefield map in a tank from start to finish, racking up 90 kills. He's going to have to get his hands dirty and get into the trenches and start shooting people like the rest of us. At first glance, Most of these vehicles seem very overpowered, but that word that begins with the letter T and ends with teamwork really comes into play once again. You focus all fire on these vehicles or place a nicely shot rocket into the wing, and these things are good as gone. That being said, each and every one of these vehicles has their own unique weaponry, from the speeder's tow cable to all the different artillery that are offered by these huge walkers. And I'll tell you what, each one is more fun than the last. Now, the only thing that really kind of irked me was the flight controls are still fucking impossible, but guess what? That's me. I'm a noob at any sort of battlefield controlling game. But give it some time and effort, and I'll tell you, you will be Bullseye and Womp Rat better than Luke did back on Tatooine. Alright, so that's enough about the vehicles. We're going to move on to my fifth and final takeaway, and it is arguably the most anticipated thing in this game. But oh shit, actually, you know what? Here he comes.
We know the power of the dark side.
Woo! Oh boy! Oh man, Darth Vader and the rest of the heroes are absolutely the most fun part about this game, hands down. It's not without a little bit of a learning curve though, because the controls right when you first get your hands on them for these heroes is a little bit admittedly clunky. You have to give it time to learn how to master the force choke, or push if you're Luke, blocking incoming blaster fire, as well as good old-fashioned lightsaber dueling. I'm not gonna lie, the first time I got a hero, it was Luke, and I died within 30 seconds, and I was like, what the fuck, that was it? But with some time, I became worthy of the title Sith Lord for sure. I found that using, yet again, teamwork was the best way to truly harness the power of the dark side. When you had stormtroopers flanking both your left and your right sides as you move through the battlefield as Darth Vader, you're able to get up close and personal and take these guys out with lightsabers, and that was the absolute best way to take advantage of his powers. Otherwise, you get bum rushed, there's 40 people all over you just gunning you down from all sides, and your hero power lasted no longer than 10 seconds. So, there you have it guys, that is my top 5 takeaways from the Battlefront beta. I personally cannot wait for the launch of this game November 17th, and I can't wait to get more hands-on with Darth Vader, because I'm by far a Sith through and through. And with that being said, if you guys enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe, or I will force choke you. I'm out, guys.